Hello, our viewers. Welcome to another episode of Women Rise. My name is Madreen. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for always watching us and tuning into Civic Space TV. This show airs every Saturday at 3 p.m. and we get to host different women, share their stories, life challenges, and of course how they're able to do it in society. Join me, welcome our guest today. I have Nancy Ayot. Many of you have seen Nancy on Civic Space TV, not only Civic Space TV, but I believe on other channels. And today she's here on a special, special invite. And today she's going to tell us about herself. Yes, Nancy, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. The bar is so high. The bar is so high. But
I know.
thank you so much for having me on this show. Actually, for believing that, I am good enough to host on that show.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I am very honored and I look forward to this conversation.
We are welcoming you on Women Rise.
Thank you.
Yeah, Women Rise always here. I know you've watched some of our stories, but it's a platform, a mentorship platform for young women. And
Thank you.
We are really so happy to have you join us. We don't take this time for granted. Yeah, let's get into the conversation. How are you, Nancy?
On what? Asking. Usually when we are out there training girls, we ask on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you?
Yeah.
And so people begin by saying, 3, 2, 1. Oh, but I think I'm on 8.
8.
8. Yes, very
I
positive.
She's so interesting and mostly, yeah. So Nancy, to our viewers who do not know who Nancy is, take us through how do you describe yourself?
Lord. How do I describe myself? First to say, my name is Nancy Ayot. Many people call me Nancy. My friends call me Nancy. My acquaintances call me Nancy. However, I believe when the relationship gets a bit sour, I insist, call me Miss Ayot, because now we create a distance. Yeah. But, it doesn't mean we don't talk. But I am a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a lawyer, I'm a writer, I'm a feminist. Yeah. Yes. That is how I describe myself. And I think there are other things that will come up with time, because I know people like to box themselves into niches, that I am known for this type of thing, this is what I must do. But today I am 26 years old, and I think that there are horizons that are big for me. I am learning many things, and I don't want to latch onto a niche that this is exactly who I am and this is who I will be for the rest of my life. Because if life has taught me anything in this small time, it is that there are new things to learn, there are other things to unlearn, there are titles that you will identify with today, there are others that you will not identify with tomorrow. So I don't box myself. I don't box myself. Yes.
Yeah. All right. And I didn't introduce who Nancy is. Nancy is a feminist lawyer and a writer, and she has a campaign that she's running. 28th May is a menstrual hygiene day, and Nancy is here. She's advocating for 1,000 girls, padding 1,000 girls in West Nile. Yes, so this is one of the reasons as to why we decided to host her today, so that she tells us about this campaign. But before the campaign, she'll tell us about her personal story. How has she done it? And how is she able to do all this? Yes, Nancy, your young self growing up, how was your childhood experience? Where are you from?
Thank you. It is a difficult question of identity in this day, because many of us have grown up in boarding schools. Myself personally, I have. But to specify, I am from northern Uganda, Acholi in particular, Agago district. I come from a small town called Kalon. And this is a story that I like to tell everyone, because getting out of my village was sort of, I got a culture shock, because my village is a missionary village. It's a Catholic missionary village. We have a big hill, almost like the one in Tororo, but that one has a cross on the top of the hill. Like it is like that. Everything is so centralized around the church. The hospital is around the church, and the schools are around the church, because the church the church made everything there almost, and the community is gathered around the church. It is where the service delivery takes place. It is where the education takes place. So I was born there. My mother is a midwife, and back in the day she had just finished her diploma in midwifery around 1998. So I was born to my mother on 1st September, and as a first grandchild to my grandmother then, from my mom's side, because my mom has an older sister who had children before her, but they were in Karamoja because her husband was in Karamoja and they had not seen that. So I grew up in a lot of love, that is for sure. I grew up in a lot of love, and then my father was also still in school in Nairobi. So I didn't know my father for a bit of time when I was young, but growing up, I started my nursery school there, in the only nursery school there. It was called Dr. Ambrosoli Memorial Nursery School, because the missionary is Dr. Ambrosoli. He was an Italian missionary who came and set up. Yes. So that is where I first started school. Fast forward, I had to go to boarding school because, you know, my parents had to work. They had to make a living, and they were doing it outside the country, so in South Sudan. So
it explains it.
Yes. So I entered boarding school at a very young age, at 8 years of age. And I want to tell you that growing, like at that time, I didn't know what I wanted to be. I thought I wanted to be my dad because he was so cool. Because he was so cool and he did. And I will tell you now that I didn't even like going to school. It was so much work, and you know, being in the village, there was always so much to do. There was always so much to do. There were so many kids to play with. There was so much to learn. There was so much adventure out there, but school was quiet.
And boarding?
Yes, boarding school taught me a few. I think it was the beginning of shaping my character, because I came from a lot of love and privilege. I like to say privilege because even if I didn't have materially everything that people consider a privileged life, I had lots of love. I was young. I was 8 years old. I couldn't wash my own clothes.
At home?
Yes, I could not, because because we had a help.
People around.
We had people around, and these are things that were done for me. I had responsibilities, of course. I used to clean the veranda, maybe sort the rice, the simple things. Let's say I was growing into my responsibilities at home. Then I went to boarding school, and I will tell you now that it was one of the hardest things that I had done, because all of a sudden I was separated from the life that I knew, from the life that to a very different life, and this was a life of, we speak only English. We there is Luganda, and there was always something better, and there was always someone who had better things, and perhaps it was also one of the first times that I learned that I was dark skinned. Colorism was a real thing in primary school, especially if you are a dark-skinned girl from northern Uganda. And I think one of the things that triggered me the most was being called Mucholi, because it doesn't exactly resonate with how it sounds in our language. It felt like an insult until later on I realized that, you know, that is a
How did you go about this bullying? And
I think there was loss of self-esteem, among other things. I was in a new environment. I couldn't pick up a fight, but I think there was one time I had a conversation with my mom, and I was like, oh no, I'm tired, I'm done with this life, like throwing a tantrum. And she told me, why don't you defend yourself? Why don't you stand up for yourself? And I think from that time, especially after seeing the results of standing up for myself, I never went back. Wow. But
that's the spirit. For you know, we have many young girls going through this. It might not be about color, but also there is body shaming and all that.
There are lots of things. In boarding school, there are lots of things that people pick on you for. It could be the way your bag looks, and it is not even about you. So I had yes. I learned. I think I got hold of my hobbies from school. I went to St. Francis School in Tinda. Actually, they call it St. Francis in Tinda, Chigowa. Yes. So that is where I stumbled upon my hobbies, because it was hard. There were many hours to think about things, to think about life, and I wasn't ready to think about life really, because there was little to think about really, except my mom and my sister then. So I got into reading novels. I started with small Penguin volumes, you know, and I think by P6 I had read Wizard of Oz. I had read Gone with the Wind, like big volume books. And then I started to write as well.
Wow.
It wasn't. Yes. I think at 10, 11, 12 there, that's when I started to write things like the best person in my life, that those types of essays. I won them. And I don't think I ever went back. Writing and reading were my escape. They were my refuge. They were my everything. I could identify. I could see outside the world. You know, being picked out of the outside world and thrown into the four walls of a boarding school is very trying, because you will hear that something happened out there and you cannot relate. You cannot relate. You hunger for outside air and you... But it wasn't all bad. It wasn't all bad. I think that was also the beginning of my social skills. My social skills. Before I interacted with people, I only wanted to be around. But then I was forced into spaces where I had to interact with everyone, whether I liked them or not. I liked them or not. And then I went to Bishop Spiano Chihangire in Luzira. That's where I sat my O-level. For my A-level, I went to St. Mary's Chitende. And then I went to Makerere University Law School. And now I am at Victoria University Law School for my... yes, for my master's degree. For my master's degree. I can say, coming from the family in which I come, we are 6 children. I have my older sister, Evelyn. She didn't grow up at home much. She didn't grow up at home much because she grew up with her mom. But all the same, she is very much in part of our close-kin family. But I also assumed the role of a firstborn a lot, because yes, because my sister wasn't around as much. Yes, so I assumed the role of a firstborn, and I think until to date I am the de facto, because after my sister staying home for a while, then she had to go to the university, then she started her own life. So that put me in a position to be the de facto firstborn. So right now, my siblings call me Mom Junior. They call me Mom Junior. Mom Junior because
you've been there.
Because I've been there, and because I've supported my mom a lot in these roles that we play at home. Sometimes I do not want to, really. No, not because it's a bad thing, but because I just feel like I want my own thing. But then I don't think I could do without it. Because I do not know any other thing. But also because I low-key like it. Because when I take a step back and then I hear people talking about this thing, then I hear my sister has this other problem going on, and I'm like, okay. Okay, it's time for Mom Junior. Then I show up.
And then you show up.
Then I show up. But I did not start by dreaming of a career in law. It wasn't the very first thing I dreamt about. In my O-levels, when I got into deep writing, and I was writing I was writing these handwritten novels in school, and they were going around the poetry that I was already writing back then. I told myself that I will be a writer. And I'll write great fiction, I'll write great stories, and I'll publish them, and I'll become a bestseller, and I'll receive an Oscar.
Yes, we are hoping to, praying for you one day. You never know. Yeah.
And then, of course, I got some checks on my reality, because not only was I told, and this is a person who told me from a place of love, from what they believe is the truth, that, that is not a career you can make in Uganda. Being a writer, it's not a career that you can, because from that generation, the definition of a thriving career is being a lawyer, a doctor or an engineer. And I understand that. That's why I'm saying they came from a place of love. They came from a place of love. So they told me, this is a hobby. It is not.
You can do it.
It is not. Think about something else. Think about something else. But also coming from an all girls family, except for my little brother. My young brother, he's a little older than our youngest sister. Is our only boy, and he was born in 2012. So I grew up in a family of girl children only. I think we had these things from our relatives. Sometimes they think you're not hearing it, or from family friends. Sometimes they think you're not hearing it, but like, oh, they would be like, some people would be like, oh, but he has only girls. And you know, someone would be like, what's the problem with saying he has only girls? But it's the undertone of looking down on the girl child, on family. However, I would just like to say that my father was very encouraging, and I believe he drove me hard. That's a fact. He drove me hard, and he told me, you have the responsibility of this family. You need to go to school. You need to make things happen. But also the fact that my interests and my possible career path was already centered in academics and reading and all these things. That's when I realized, I was like, oh, I have to stay in school, or I won't eat, because I like to write, I like to read. I would not have done any of that if I had not stepped in school, or if they had let me go the first time I escaped from school as a child. So
you did also.
Oh yes, the first 1 week in school, I moved.
You had to run back home.
The first 1 week, for 5 consecutive days, I left school.
I know it happens.
I escaped. I went to my grandmother's. I went to my other aunties, and like every day, my mom would get the information back, and she would flog me. Then the next day I go back, I go to another venue. Then again, she would somehow find out. Then she would flog me. Then the next week, I was like, the world is too small. Let me stay put.
I think it has happened to many of us, you know. First days of school are really, it's not easy to cope up with. So Nancy, you're a feminist lawyer. Tell us about this career.
A feminist lawyer. Like I said, I don't like to box myself, but these are titles that I've taken on for myself, from knowing myself, from studying these things, and from growing into these things. And also, I started noticing the inequalities earlier on in life. I can't have the exact memories of all this, but I know that there were expectations of me that were not expected of my cousin brothers, who were, you know, the close-knit families around us. There were games that they could play, and there were games that I could not play, and I liked to be outside. But I think what stood out most for me was the fact that I did not like injustice of any kind, mostly from being a person who faced a lot of injustice. 1, from being the new person in the room. 2, from being the different person in the room. And 3, from speaking differently from other people that were in the room. So I was very, in fact, I will use the word triggered, because I was very emotional about it, outrightly emotional about it. I think my very first time of fighting such type of inequality was when I was in P7, and we had streams. There was East and West, and I think in our year they introduced something called North. East was supposed to be the super bright kids, then West, the somehow not very bright kids, then North, the kids. And hierarchy is...
How is someone somehow? You just
no. I'm trying to be I'm trying to be polite about it, but they would tell us in school, no, these are the people who cannot get Division 1. You get, they already. So, and it was already coming to second term, and you know, we're feeling like we're the big kids in school. PL is closed, and we're like, they're teaching us new things. And then my friends from West came and told me, you guys, I don't know if it's because we're like not that good, but like our math teacher does not. And I remember being so so annoyed about it. So annoyed about it, I was like, what? The guy is not showing up to class. And I'm like, let's do something about this. And they're like, but what can we do? And I'm like, no, you don't have to expose yourselves.
Yeah.
Let's do something. So we wrote box letters, like an anonymous letter to the head teacher that was written in box letters, because we were trying to disguise our handwriting. And like, sir, this guy is not showing up to class. 1, 2, 3, what? Anyway, the people I fought for sold me out. And the teacher came for me. But I remember the feeling when this man approached me on the compound, because I was going to class when he came, and he was like, is this a girl called Ayot? And they were like, that's her. And then he stops me, and then he tells me, who the hell are you? And I remember looking at him in the eye like this, and for everything he said, I was like, I am not sorry. In my head, I could not tell him, but in my head, I said, I am not sorry. And I don't have a game face, so I believe that it showed on my face, because I was saying I am not, because in my head I was saying I'm not sorry, and it's like, look at her, lower your eyes. And I was like, no. Because and then going to high school, I think I was a class prefect for almost 4 years. For my 4 years. And first I was appointed, and then I was re-elected all over and all over again. I don't know, does that count as overstaying in power?
I know. Almost 4 years. And yeah, but that's good. People really put you back.
And my school, my O-level school, Bishop's Piano, is majorly run by prefects, because there's a hierarchy of leaders. There's a chain of command. And so in your class, as a class prefect, you literally run the class. You don't have the privilege to report, to say this is not, you can say this is not working out and get help, but a strong class leader manages the class. And one of the rules that I set for myself back then was that I am not going to be selling out people for noise making, because we rarely talk. In class time, you don't talk. During prep, you're not supposed to talk. Then at night, you're supposed to turn off the lights and sleep. When do we talk? You hear? So I told myself I will not punish people for talking, but I will punish people for making noise. But punishing people usually means presenting the names of noise makers. And, being in Ugandan schools and going through all that process, believe me, I was so used to being caned that it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a big deal. So one of the things that I did, whenever the teachers came in and said, your class is making noise, give me a list, I'll just keep quiet and be like, who's the class prefect? Where is the list? I'll put up my hand and be like, I have no list. And I'll be like, receive the punishment for everyone.
So you used to take it for others?
Oh, I used to. It wasn't like I was taking it for others. For me, it felt like it happens. So I took it until, I'm just saying, because I didn't take it all the time. There was a time we had a teacher, I think he's called Mr. Matua from Bishop's Piano Changere. The school was in fear of him. And I didn't understand why at first, but like, I took caution. I was like, maybe I should fear just because people fear. But the day I actually went in to receive the punishment on behalf of my class, I understood. And I remember standing up, I was trembling, my hands were shaking, and I told them, if anyone even says a peep today, I am going to give you in and you're going to receive what I just received. Anyway.
So when did, okay.
Long story short,
to bring it. Tell us about, the writing that you're doing. What issues do you focus on most, and do you still practice this writing?
Yes. So as I was saying, really, the leadership brought me into knowing the inequalities, in the school, but also, especially when it came to cleaning classrooms, where the sweeping rota was divided into sweepers and moppers. Then somehow boys make it to the sweepers and girls do the heavy lifting, the mopping. And I remember mixing it up, and some of the boys would complain, but I think it was about putting your foot down. I didn't always win, that is a fact, but I did my best under the circumstances. But it highlighted what I'd always thought was unfair, what I knew to be unfair, but it reconfirmed. And coming into the university to go into law school, it was from seeing the experiences of women, different women that I knew, how unfair marriages were for women that I knew, how unfair girls were having it in their different spheres because of GBV, different things. And I told myself that, you know what, this is a civilization, because from school you know these things. This is a country, there has got to be some laws about this. And when I get my hands on the law book, I will come and save everyone.
Savior.
Savior.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll come and make this right, literally. But coming to law school made me realize that there is law and then there is women. Because whether people like to admit it or not, the experiences of women and the structures that exist in our society are what separates us, are what makes these good laws that we have never be implemented. They are what make us go to law school and realize that the real work may never be in actually learning the law or knowing the law, but in coming down to society to change mindsets and to advocate for better. To advocate for better. As for my writing, this is a thing that I do frequently. I think I have
Have you published
I have a blog.
Oh.
I have a blog,
Okay.
and I don't write every day, mostly because of my schedule with work. But every now and then there are issues that are pressing, and I go out there. It's called Femme Issue, and I just write. And it's not
issue.
Yes, and it's not exactly that I am writing about how women do not have access to justice, because that some of these things are facts that already exist. But for me, it's more the reasons why, or the perpetuating, the continuous perpetuation of inequalities and the narratives that surround why women do not get access as much as they're supposed to. So my writing yielded something. And even now and then I go to poetry shows and I recite when I can.
Wow.
But the stage fright is real because poetry is very intimate.
Yeah.
It's very intimate and it is different. And putting yourself out there is a difficult thing. I can't say that I have always done so. There are times when I've been so scared to do it. There are times when my courage left me halfway into doing it. However, I think from 2022 September, I made a conscious decision to actually better myself, and I have not gone back. Yes.
Okay. What do you see as the most pressing issues facing the feminist movements in Uganda? Not only in Uganda, but across Africa.
Across Africa, worldwide.
And how can we work together to address these issues?
I think one of the things that disturbs me is the new anti-rights movement. And I'm not saying, I'm going to say the things that I believe are affecting, not in the exact order of importance, but for me, one of the things that comes up first, because I feel like today we are scaling back on gender equality. We are going back, we are backsliding, and it is a thing that shocks me. It shocks me because I didn't think so. I didn't think it would happen. We came from women deserve to work to a new narrative that women were lied to. Work is not the thing. And it is so perplexing because you understand that once a woman doesn't have, that the thing that gives a woman agency in this patriarchal society is economic empowerment, having their own money. It gives them an edge, the power to decide for themselves. And right now, it is one of the things that is attacked the most. People, when you go on the internet and people will say, I can't be with a working woman or an educated woman because they will neglect the family. And people find that very reasonable because the gender roles are being justified once again. The things that we fought, that people before us have fought for. And I think this is like the new reality for us young feminists, for us feminists of this time, because now we have to tell people that these people are lying to you. This was the truth, that what we said is the truth. These people are lying to you. And countering a dominant narrative has to be the most exhausting thing. The most exhausting thing, because you will go and, you know, every time you say I'm a feminist, someone will be like, you're a feminist. You are feminist. And for me it is surprising, because I feel like a lot of girls.
Why is it like that in society, you know? There's a way.
And that's what I'm telling you. There are dominant narratives already attacking the title and the movement, because they're attaching it to things that society doesn't approve.
Is it because many of us don't understand? I don't know. What do we attach this to?
There is something that I am going to say, and maybe it's going to make me sound controversial, but in this new age of information, with everyone talking about inequality, there's something I usually say on the show at Women Speaking, is that people only understand inequalities when it's directly affecting them. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to them. I am not going to engage in a conversation to justify why someone has a right to work, why someone has a right to opportunities just like everyone else, no, regardless of their tribe, regardless of their gender, regardless of their race. I am not going to engage in that conversation. This is the age of information. And for me, for someone to come and say, maybe it is because we do not understand it, I call that weaponized incompetence. Because people are using the fact that they cannot go out there and find information on things that they do not understand to clarify for them, to justify the reasons why they hate something. Now, that is also subjective. Now, say a person who has no access to, say, the internet and all those things cannot come out. I cannot fault them for not knowing the things that they do not know. A young person still in school, however much they have access to the internet and all those things, it may not have occurred to them. And perhaps that would be my duty to tell them. However, a grown elite person who is just using the time to justify their biases. And this is a real thing. People want to justify how they feel about a situation. I think another thing that is currently attacking the movement, and without fear of being contradicted, I think it's religious fascism. Because people come out and say, our religion does not accept this. And in truth, I believe that most religions have very egalitarian values. They want that everyone be equal. Human beings use their hate, use religion to justify their hate today. It is the same thing that we're seeing in the US. Very common, in the US right now. It is the same. It is why we can have leaders go to parliament and say, we should have the legal marriage be polygamous. They're taking us back 5 steps and justify. They're saying because we have adultery, we should legalize polygamy. And yet they're like extremely important things that have not been touched into, namely the menstrual equity for girls. And it was with a lot of pain last month in the Women's Month when the government came out and said, you know, we had talked about sending in 3 pads for schools all over Uganda, but it's not feasible within our budget. I think there are more, and they said it's not sustainable, but I think there are more unsustainable things in this budget than that alone. Even the tradition of, even some other values that people keep bringing up, are just a means to justify hate. I keep saying it because people do not want to look at equality in terms of other people. They just want to look at equality. It's like we're in a society where the framework of equality is according to who is more important. That on a scale of equality, there are some people who are more important than others. And it brings me to the question of what about the boy child? It is also a known fact that there are less boys than girls in this country, in the population. I know the census didn't work out, but it is fact that there are more women than men. So when someone comes out and says more girls graduated from the university than boys, what do you expect?
What's that? Yeah.
In a place, for example, if in this room we are 4 people and there is 1 male, and then 2 women graduate from the university, and the one male also graduates from the university, people will come out and say, how about the boy child?
Yeah. I think, Nancy, a lot of issues, you can talk about when you go into that. But I want us to go to why, most importantly, why you're here. You're wearing a very beautiful t-shirt. Yes, I think it speaks a lot. Femto, West Nile. This is me, period.
Yes.
Right. And Nancy is basically here to talk about, the menstrual hygiene day, or celebrated every 28th May. And she's running a campaign. This is called €2 for a girl. And she's looking at, padding 1,000 girls in Koboko, Yumbe, and Obongi. Yes. So, Nancy, before you come in, the government of Uganda are committed to providing menstrual hygiene products to school-going girls, and that was in the manifesto of 216 to 221. You just mentioned about it in your talk, but they were aiming at addressing school dropout rates and supporting menstrual hygiene and dignity and well-being of adolescents. But we continue to see a lot of, number of school dropouts, and mainly the girl child, because of, menstruation. Every time a girl starts her menstruals, there's a lot that happens around it. And you're running this campaign. But before you tell us about your campaign, what is menstrual poverty? Take us through this. Someone who does not know about this.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about this. And I would like to say, to re-emphasize what I was saying, that in society there are some people who matter. In our society, the current one as it is, our values make it so that there are other people who matter more than there are some people who matter more than others. And in this, we find that the girl child is disproportionately left out. And whether we like to admit it or not, numbers do not lie. Facts do not lie. And mostly girls in rural areas. So, when we talk about period poverty, it is the fact that, to simply explain it, the fact that people are too poor to afford the products that they need during their periods to take care of themselves, to get access to water, to get access to sanitary towels, to maybe medical care in case they have some sort of reproductive health issues concerning menstrual hygiene, concerning their menstrual health. It means that they are too poor. And I don't like to equate it only to a rural area, because we also have the urban poor. On a scale of poor people, the reason why in the feminist movement we say that everything is related, intersectional, is because there are different factors that make someone the least privileged person or the most disadvantaged person. If a girl comes from a rural area, she has no money, or she's an orphan, and there is no source of income, she is more likely not to be able to afford to go to school. That already puts her at a very bad rate, because even UPE schools pay a small stipend. And if she cannot afford to pad herself for 3 or 5 days of school every month, it means that she's missing out. She's already missing out. Aside from other facts like sexual harassment that already exist, it means that she's unable to afford these things. So that puts her at the lower scale. But it also means that there are some things that are more likely to happen to her because of lack of information. Even if she has a torch, she's more likely to face technologically facilitated violence. Or someone coming and conning her through the phone. She's more likely to face that than anyone else. But also the fact that climate change as it is more likely to affect her. It means if she has to walk to a 5-kilometer school, on the morning that it rains, she has no school. So at the end of the day, what do we have? Dropouts. Or what do we have? A case of defilement. I don't like to call it teenage pregnancies, because teenagers are children, and anyone who rapes or who has a child, who has sexual intercourse with a child, defiled that child. There is no other logic behind it. We cannot count numbers and be like, the rate of teenage pregnancies. We cannot come in and say girls are having sex to get pads. No. People are taking advantage of girls. They are sexually exploiting girls to give them things that they are naturally entitled to as young people of this country. Now, to talk about the campaign. Yes.
Maybe before you come into that, I have some statistics here. 64% of Ugandan girls miss school due to lack of menstrual support. Yeah. Then the dropout rate is 23% of girls drop out whenever they start their menstruation. Then 7% to 28% girls, these are absence rates. And then only 22% girls have access to sanitary towels. I think, we cannot even, you've already told us about your story, and there's already a line, a trace of why you're even advocating gold, doing this campaign. Yeah. So mainly, why in northern Uganda, and more about this campaign?
Thank you so much. Aside from the fact that there is a concentration of NGOs doing work within the central region, I am a person from northern Uganda, not West Nile per se. And the reason why our campaign is with FemTalk West Nile, but we're not limited within West Nile. That's why we're saying 1,000 or more pads, because we also hope to reach some parts of northern Uganda actually. Now, the thing is, we cannot do everywhere. It is not possible. It is not humanly possible for us to give pads to every person. However, even on this campaign of ours, we have collaborations from different people, from different parts. I have a close friend of mine who is working in eastern Uganda, which has deplorable situations because girls are using sand as sanitary. It is deplorable, to say the least. The diseases they could contract, the hygiene, it's to say the least. It's a lot of work. And of course, I also have another colleague who is doing work in Western Uganda. So this is a concerted effort. It's a joint effort of many people. We support each other. If we get more than 1,000 plus pads, we could even give them, because we have to work together to make these things work. But us alone, after the menstrual equity project for the government flopped, I was concerned, and me and my friend, our core patients, had a conversation, and we're like, wait a minute, but menstrual hygiene day is almost here. It's almost, and the reason why we say €2 for a girl is because the price of, when you convert €2, it's approximately 8,000 shillings, and that is the price of a reusable sanitary towel. So the main objective is to provide reusable sanitary towels, because they are long lasting, they're more sustainable than the disposable. However, we are welcoming disposable pads also, because they will help someone else. And we are not under the illusion that we might get 1,000 pads. If we do get it, great. Great, but also we have to manage our expectations in terms of what people are able to give, and in terms of this economy. Yes. So have I already talked about the campaign even? I feel like I already talked about the campaign too. But the point is, now we are only approximately 8 days in. We started last week on Friday. That is how many?
Last week on Friday. Yeah, today is Saturday. Almost a week.
Yes, almost a week. And plus, it is great to see the support that we are receiving. Not all of it is in terms of money, but in terms of space to talk about these things, like at Civic Space TV today. I am very grateful to you, Madreen, to Civic Space TV, to Center for Constitutional Governance, and to the crew as well, to Pal, to Ronald, and everyone on the show, because it makes great impact to get the message out there, but also because we need all the help that we can get. But also we have partnered with some other people because of her foundation. They've also come in, and some other organizations have come in and pledged things. So for us, that is a good move, a positive move in the right direction. And I'm not saying that we have the right, I would say we have the right momentum right now.
Yeah.
We have the right momentum going
Okay.
forward, yes.
Yeah.
We have people who have come and volunteered their time to go on social media and just talk about it. People who have offered their platforms. This may not be the only platform I'll appear on. And I think the support for the girl child is very positive, even amidst all these factors that are bumming us down.
True.
Yes.
True. And you come from northern Uganda. What is like menstruation like for a girl in northern Uganda?
Let me just say that I know a pool of people from northern Uganda, the areas I'm able to access, and some of them are rural, some of them are semi-urban.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, it's multifaceted. It is not, there are some girls in a rural area whose families are able to afford this and they live a decent life. Whereas there are some girls in a semi-urban area who are trying to make it in life and it's difficult for them. If not almost impossible sometimes of the month. And it's a reality. People don't talk about this enough, but it is what it is. And girls in northern Uganda are also facing a post-conflict society, which is crying out for help. There is abject poverty, whether people like to believe it or not. And this is the thing I keep saying, because people have certain ideas of what a certain society is supposed to look like, but that is different. And I say this, even if we have progressed from the time of war, right now the girl child still suffers a lot of inequalities. For some of them, it is not safe to be out on the streets even at daytime because of sexual harassment. And you know, sometimes people want to cherry pick what sexual harassment is. As long as your intentions are not receptive to the person, that is already harassment. It is, you know, the penal code has it under indecent assault, but I have never seen it being enforced. ever we walk out the streets there and people us all the time, and that's indecent assault. That's indecent assault. But for girls in northern Uganda also, I think many of them, especially those who have no access to information, could even believe that that is the reality of life, that insufficiency in terms of that is the reality of life. And yet that is not true. That is not true. And I believe no one has to feel that way. No one has to feel that way, because this is a basic need of any society. And I say society because menstruation is the next step to reproduction. It's the next step to forming a family. And quote me well, this is not saying that girls who are menstruating are ready to form a family. No, they are not. They are not. But it is the next step. And I feel like if we want to protect the future of our country, we need to protect that right for girls to access menstrual products. And it is extremely difficult because this is a sensitive topic. Not everyone is ready to talk about it. So it's hard to know who has and who doesn't have. It is hard to know who is pressed of time. And not a lot, but a number of girls in northern Uganda are also going into sex work because they need to afford things for themselves. And this is a sad reality for some of them. And I cannot condemn them for doing that, because at the end of the day, this is what our society has set us up for. It has set us up for all these things, and there is nothing else we can do about it except addressing the inequalities that are facing them, availing them with everything that they need, and giving them the opportunity to have a choice. Yes.
Yeah. How best can, community, of course you and your friends are coming out, but then how best can the community around us come in and support or engage to encourage girls and women to speak about their menstrual experiences?
For
Because there is a lot of, a lot that goes on, segregation, and then the languages, the bad, yeah.
honestly, for me, I feel like this is my de facto answer to everything. Let's keep the girls in school. We keep the girls in school. We don't get rid of the affirmative action. We mend affirmative action to suit the most disadvantaged people. Now, you cannot I also give this example. I am semi-privileged to say my parents could afford to send me to school, but when I was at St. Mary's Chitende, I applied for a government sponsorship that I got. Yeah. I went to the best schools. My parents are not very rich, but they sent me to the best schools because they worked hard to do that. They had the opportunity to work that hard. They sent me to the best schools. And I believe that there is a girl out there, same intelligence as me, same ability to do the things that I do today, to advocate for women the way I do today, same ability to speak out the way I do today, and yet the only thing that she did not have is the opportunity to grab on that, and that government sponsorship would have made a hell lot of difference in her life. It would have made a lot of difference in her life. Number two, we cannot cherry pick on who is the most disadvantaged. Inequality is inequality. A person who has no access has no access, regardless of what religion they subscribe to, of what tribe or ethnic community they come from, or what you think of those communities, regardless of how they identify sexually. Those are disadvantages. The fact is they deserve healthcare. The fact is they deserve education. They deserve a home to stay in. And people cannot cherry pick, regardless of what political party they support. They support. But also it is important for us to support the right causes, not causes, not causes that disadvantage and put a shame on all of us, all the fights that we are, all the causes that we have today. But also I don't exactly speak for everyone, and I know that if there is one thing that I know for sure is that my knowledge is limited to my experiences or the experiences of people that I have heard about. So that means that there is someone's voice that still needs to be heard. There's someone's story that still needs to be told. And perhaps maybe that is why we have spaces like Women Rise.
And Nancy, do you think there are any sustainable solutions to ending period poverty?
Yes.
Yeah. What are these solutions?
What are these solutions? Coming together to make it a reality in policy that is more sustainable in policy, but also boosting the philanthropy in Africa. Now, I don't think the capitalist society is the right society for us, because they set structures or they set hierarchies where someone will always be disadvantaged. And no matter what we do, if we continue with this system, that is how it is going to continue to exist. Because for people to get more than what they need, someone has to lack out. It's like how they say Africa is the richest continent, and yet we are the ones who suffer from famine the most. Yes, and yet in Europe there is a crisis of food wastage. Inequalities, they exist. So for me, the best thing is to boost philanthropy, local philanthropy. We cannot keep depending on donations from other nations, because they come with strings that throw us more into debt, throw us more into the trap of inequalities. So I believe that if we could come together, you'd find people supporting different causes, women in business showing up for women, more people with companies doing more corporate social responsibility, and not just for the news, but like to actually make an impact, because people come take pictures and that is it. But I think we need to grow the culture of giving, because Africa, we are givers. Yes, we are givers, and I don't see why we cannot advocate to build better schools, or we cannot advocate to build better sanitary facilities in schools where girls can actually change properly, where girls have the privacy that they need, building incinerators in the right place. Those are the things that we can come together and do. Philanthropy is, even with the wave of, with the new removal of funding to important causes like HIV and all those things, I believe if we came together and supported, that would, but also supporting local entrepreneurs. Supporting local entrepreneurs, because why is it that a Ugandan entrepreneur is struggling to make the business work with all these taxes going on, and yet a foreign entrepreneur who came from another country, coming from another country is already expensive stuff. It already means you have a lot of money, and then they come, they get a tax break, and then they don't employ people, and if they do employ people, then they mistreat their workers. We get all these, yes, like the workers' rights are non-existent, because we see it every day when you walk into a shop in town and like an Indian man is treating his workers badly. And those are things that could be easily addressed, because it's happening in the middle of the city. It's not happening in secret. And even if it were happening in secret, there should be checks and balances to make these things work.
Nancy, to a girl, in northern Uganda, not only in northern Uganda, but any other remote area, a girl who is just starting her menstrual cycle, what would you have for her? What should she, be ready for? Everything you talk about concerning menstrual hygiene and all that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't feel qualified to talk about this. However, this is the advice that I've been giving my sisters, because I've been having these conversations with them. My mom does have with them, but then, just to have it more, to make it more relatable, is to hear it from your sister, right? And not just for a girl in a rural area, but for any girl watching out there. Number one, don't be scared. It is scary. That's facts. It's scary, because suddenly your body has all these things that are happening, and you don't know how to.
These are new things you don't even.
Yeah, you don't know how to deal with it. First is not to be scared. Second, it is not dirty. It is special. It is special, and not in terms of you have to carry a baby in the future, but because a lot of things come out of it. A lot of knowing yourself comes out, self-exploration and discovery comes out of this process. And so you treat it with the dignity that it deserves, because it is dignified, it is special, and it is a good thing. It is not a bad thing. Third, talk to someone you trust about these things. You're going to have questions, and people are going to answer them differently. But you need to talk to someone you trust, because that is the gateway to getting the right type of help in case you need it. And talking to someone you trust does not necessarily mean you take all the advice to the T. No one knows your body more than you do. So it is important that you understand that you describe and get to know what exactly is happening to you, so that you can get the right type of help. And for all those who have access, anytime you do not understand some of the related things that come with it, infections or the pain that is happening during this process, go to a doctor and talk to them about this. Not for fear of sounding biased, but just to put it out there, most times it is important to talk to a female doctor, because they understand what's going on. They understand what's going on better. And I think there are lots of preconceived biases about what menstruation is supposed to be among many people, and some of them come from men who do not know what they are talking about. For me, that would be my advice.
And you talk about the biases in society, not only our remote areas, but we've seen many men or parents or fathers who have even taken this, just the moment you start your menstruals, you're already grown up to go for marriage. Such things happening in society, and these are still existing in society. What do you think we can do to to take away this?
One, gender transformative approaches. We have to talk about these things. We have to go to society and educate people. And this is work that many organizations are already doing. One good example is FIDA. They do this work, and I think it is very important work. Number two, not only should we talk about gender transformative approaches, but we need to also encourage people to learn, to have the thirst to actually get information, because information is out there and getting the right information is difficult. How do you get the right information? You have a doctor, talk to the doctor, talk to health workers that you know, talk to people in the NGO. They will know someone who knows someone. These are simple things that we can do. But thirdly, I think we need to take this more seriously, because I don't think people take the offense of defilement as serious. People still want to get the other person's story. People don't want people to be interrogated for the other side of the story, to be arrested and taken to police for questioning for the others. People do not want to see that. People think that the life of a young man, or a man for that matter, who defiles a girl is more, the life and his future is more important than curbing the injustice altogether. Also, I think we've talked about early marriage is enough. I have the confidence that there is no man in Uganda who doesn't know that early marriages are condemned. Early marriages are condemned. But also we need to talk about the consequences more. The consequences more. Is the body of this girl ready for marital affairs? No, they are not. Is the body of this girl ready for reproduction? Most likely not. And yet menstruation starts as early as 8 years, or even less for some people, and that is a baby.
8 years. So you mean we should start, people with girl children? What age should we start engaging these girls about?
I am not one to say. However, as a person, I personally started mine at 12, and my sister, my follower after me, did the same. So I took it as an initiative to start earlier. And when I had a story of an 8-year-old child that got pregnant, I just took it a notch down and said, you start preparing the mind. Now, I'm not saying you slap someone with what is menstruation, because that can be difficult to explain to a kid, and they'll go and be like, Nancy told me this, and it won't be funny. But you can start preparing the mind of someone through, small sexual reproductive health education. Clean yourself, wash yourself well. Wash yourself well, wash your nika, bathe regularly. You prepare their minds for what is going to happen. There will be a time when you're going to start sweating more. As you grow older, you start sweating more. So when you talk about the body more often in that positive light, there will be a time when the person can tell you, I am feeling stomach pain, or I've been feeling weird. And you may even be able to guess. But even as it may, that is not a symptom that is universal. So, but it just opens up room to have the conversation. Sometimes you know when a person is ready. Sometimes you may not know. At the end of the day, it's all about us engaging in regular sexual reproductive health conversations with everyone.
Do you have, away from doing the campaign, do you have these conversations when you visit these girls with them?
Absolutely, absolutely. And
because they're really important.
And this is not the only time that I have this conversation. It's not, around menstrual hygiene day, but it's a conversation that goes on and goes on. Sometimes it's a phone call from a girl who knows you, and they're talking about. Sometimes it's from a friend who is having an issue and they have nobody to talk to about, and it is wide.
We've seen girls that are, even scared to talk to their mothers, and they have no one to talk to. Away from the campaigns like you're doing, maybe you visit a school.
Yes,
then
absolutely.
You offer these services.
Absolutely, I do. I have offered them a number of times. I think counting from around 2022, I think like 8 times now. I have been to 8 schools talking about this under the umbrella of different organizations. I was taken on as a consultant, and I went in and talked to the ladies. Yes.
Beautiful. And Nancy, as we try to draw to the end of the conversation, this campaign, you're running it with so many people supporting you. So other people who would want, to support you in kind, money, any other support, you welcome it. And how do we reach FemTalk?
Okay. I believe you can go to our social media pages at FemTalk West Nile. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn. You can go there and check out information, because they are also the way to contact us there, through the phone numbers, through the email addresses. They are all there. You can contact us and talk to us about the type of support that you want to offer. There are also numbers for our donations. In case you want to offer a donation, you can donate, give us a call and tell us this is how you've donated. It is nice when we get the call, because then we can account to you that this is how we have used this money, or this is how we have used this product that you sent to us. So, but also we are very grateful, because some other support I told you is coming in form of spreading the word. And for me, I believe that is important. It also opens up room to have conversations about menstrual hygiene and sexual reproductive health. Yes.
Yeah, wow, beautiful. So away from that, your life, what is your greatest life lesson in your career as a feminist lawyer, as a writer, and now into this activism journey?
My greatest, I think it is the fact that our lives are not the same. We cannot arrive at the destination at the same time. At the same time, many people went to school together, someone repeated a class. But it doesn't mean that they have failed. And I think failure is just a precursor for you to reorganize yourself and go to the next and achieve the goal that you've already set out. But also, number 2 is to know yourself. To know yourself. For the longest time, I think I knew myself, and I stood in the things that I understood and in the things that I knew myself to be. However, I think this is a problem that many girls face. At some point, the need to be relatable and the need to be liked won. And that is a time when I lost myself. And I say I lost myself because I literally lost myself, because I didn't understand what was going on. It was only when I crashed down with mental health challenges that I had to sit down and try to reflect and try to see where I've come from, to see the things that I like, to go back to patterns that made sense to me, and to come back from that. That is not an easy thing. I call it my phoenix moment, because it is like rising from the ashes and finding out that just because people do not like who you are doesn't mean you don't have to like it, as long as you like who you are. And
everything should start with you.
Yes, everything. Yourself, yes, everything should start with you. And a lot of us young people face identity crises, mostly because we grew up in the city, away from the communities that are supposed to give us cultural values, into boarding school, and that reflects a lot in the things that we say. However, I don't think there is a predetermined way for an actually girl from a gargo to actually behave. There is no predetermined way. People are different. And the cultures that I have now are the values with which my parents brought me up, to be honest, to be diligent, which is what matters at the end of the day. Yes.
Yeah. You've gone through some, have had times when you're growing up, and we still have, many girls with these challenges. How do you think they can overcome this and, be strong as you came out and stood against all the odds, we have many girls who are lost, people, that they are struggling to find themselves. Yes, what best way can they, practice to see that they bring themselves back and build the confidence around themselves?
Sometimes the hard time doesn't necessarily mean that you go back to the person you used to be, okay? Sometimes it requires you to evolve. And I have done some evolving of my own. Despite going back to find my roots, I've done some evolving of my own. But I believe what people should do is, first of all, breathe through the hard times. And I say this with the most confidence because you need to go through it. You need to go through it. Don't try to get over it quickly. You are going to fall around along the way, and that is a difficult thing, going back into the hard time. And I think during the time when I was in depression, because I suffered from depression, I used to go back into the room, our childhood room at home, which I used to share with some of my sisters, and I would go on the downer bed and cry. From there, it was a source of solace. It gave me security. Find the thing that gives you security. Find the thing that gives you security, but also talk to a professional. It happens. Talk to somebody. Sometimes it's not even a profession, but talk to someone else. Tell people I'm having a hard time. Sometimes they will help you. Sometimes they will not. And that is the reality of life. It is the reality of life.
I've heard people here say, speaking and talking to someone is therapy.
Yes, it's therapeutic because now you voice out what is happening inside you, so you validate. And your feelings are valid. Speaking of validate, your feelings are valid. Your feelings are valid, and I hope that every girl out there understands that there is no textbook solution to the things that you're going through. There are different ways people get over things, and some of them through reading their favorite book, some of them through connecting with old friends, some of them through learning new patterns or learning more discipline. It is not. There is no topic or course on how to get over things. I see those books, but lol.
True. You're right, Nancy. And Nancy, reflecting on all that you're doing, and mainly with the Pad Girl campaign, what future plans do you see, or in the next 5 to 10 years, do you hope to, grow bigger, do more things for us, away from West Nile and also reaching somewhere?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Right now, my immediate desire is to finish school. And when I say finish school, I don't mean that only finish my master's. I hope to pursue a PhD as well. Wow. Yes. So that is one of the most certain future plans. But if you're talking about plans in terms of advocacy, I hope to find my path in all of this, because I am not a Miriam Atembe, but I hope to do more work and also emulate people that came before us. I hope to collaborate in the same spirit, to do the same things, because right now our country is going through a difficult time. And it is funny, but we had this conversation as though I'm not interested in governance, but I am very interested in governance. It is something, the person who is political. For any woman or for any feminist, they will be very interested in the governance of a country, because it affects the way that we live. It affects the access that we have to spaces and all these things. And I hope that I could be one of those young people who help in shaping the future of this country for better.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. And lastly, to the next, generation of women, the girl children who are watching you, adolescents, your advice to them?
My advice: stop being relatable. Stop trying to be relatable. Stop trying to be likable. People need to like you for who you are. Once you lose who you are, what are you doing? Who do they like? Do they still like you? But also, I need people to trust themselves. Sometimes older people do not have all the answers. Yes. I am almost, in my generation of cousins, I'm almost one of the only ones who went into the arts class. One of the only ones, almost. And I am the only one who has gone into feminist work. And so there's a lot of questions. There are lots of times when I was seeking advice from people who didn't know what I was talking about. Because traditionally, everyone knew that if you want to make it in life, you become a lawyer, doctor, or engineer. Well, I am a lawyer, though. I am a lawyer, and that gives me a little bit more privilege and makes me a little relatable. But there are things that you want to do that your parents do not have answers to. And this is not because they don't wish well for you. They do wish well for you. But sometimes you're going to ask them for advice, and they're going to tell you things that do not apply. Or they're going to tell you to abandon the path that they do not understand. It doesn't mean that they don't mean well for you. People just don't have important things to say about things that they do not understand. Yes, and yeah, lastly, there is no hurry. There is no hurry.
Everything in due time.
Everything in due time. And it can't happen too quickly. It can't happen too quickly. You need to have patience and be patient with yourself and understand that some of these things take time, but don't procrastinate. Pick up the pace where you know you're slacking off, because at the end of the day, hard work gets you somewhere. But to end, this is something I like to tell people, because when you appear on a show, a lot of people, or when you talk to people like this, a lot of people think you have it all together. That is not true. I don't have it all together. There are some days I wake up with a lot of energy, like today. I know, yes, I'm going to take over the world. I'm going to complete all my tasks. And then there are some days I don't wake up. I don't want to wake up. Not because I am not hardworking, but because I can't just go out there. But there are also some days where some things are too important. I must wake up. Those are the things that happen. You need to give yourself more grace. And I think that I've come where I am right now. I am having this conversation with you because I give myself grace. I take care of myself. I look after my feelings. I look after my environment. But I also look after my career and give importance to what is going to take me forward and less of what is pushing me back. If there is room for me to improve, I improve. If it is something I can work on, well and good. I think about it. I look for ways to make myself better. And for me, that will always be the ultimate thing. I can only do the work that I do if I'm in a good place. If I am not,
You don't.
I cannot.
Wow. Beautiful conversation here with Nancy. Thank you so much, Nancy, for coming through. And lastly, call upon everyone, to join the campaign, to join the cause. This is a very beautiful cause. Not only people in northern Uganda, but all of us can join the campaign.
Yes. So, hello people. My name is Nancy Ayot. I'm the Chief Steward of the 2 Euros for a Girl campaign. It's a campaign towards getting sanitary towels for 1,000 plus girls. And I say 1,000 plus girls because, it's a mark that we're setting, but we can get more. And we're doing this for some of the most disadvantaged girls in West Nile and some parts of northern Uganda. I'm calling upon you to donate 2 euros, equivalent of 8,000 shillings. Donate, reach out to us for partnerships, but also you can donate in kind. We're also receiving sanitary towels, even reusable ones. We also request that if you have space to give us to talk to people, you do the same. But also, this is a good thing. This is a good cause that will drive us closer to keeping more girls in school, but also to bettering the life of any other individual who needs those pads at the moment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you so much. It has been a very beautiful conversation. I hope you have learned something from Nancy's experience, of course, with her writing, her being a feminist lawyer, and of course, her activism work. Yes, thank you so much to our viewers. If you're watching us for the very first time, please like the conversation. Support this particular program by sharing the link with your family and friends. Always come back to this channel, subscribe, hit the notification button so that you're always aware on when we bring the new episode. Every Saturday at 3 p.m. we're always here. We thank all our guests who have come in to share their stories and of course about their work. Thank you to the people behind the cameras. I've been your host, Madreen. See you next week. Bye.